Hey, welcome to Beyond the Box, where we rank everything from black holes to bad jokes, and maybe even your weirdest Google searches. If it can be put in a list, we've probably already done it or will next week.
Nice.
3 weeks ago, my very good friend Beth and Luke went to Turkey with their 2 children. And practically 24 hours later, Beth had died. There have been so many things that have gone wrong, so much negligence, so much corruption between the hospitals, the police, the prosecution. And then we find out, even after I gave explicit consent, as did Luke, that they do not touch any of her organs. We find out when we get her back to the UK that they have stolen her heart, which is very odd because they claimed that the reason why, a possible reason why she could have died was that she had a heart problem. I mean, she didn't, but that's what they claimed. If I was to tell you the shit that has been going on the last 3 weeks, you wouldn't believe me. If I could explain the state of the hospital, the lack of empathy. We got to see Beth for 20 seconds, no, maybe a bit more than 30 seconds in the morgue. And then the guy went, "Come on," and handed us a corner of the body bag that was zipped open with Beth. And me, Beth's mum, Luke, and a translator had to lift her body into a coffin and then walk the coffin down the hallway for about an hour while they waited for transport. So it's just Beth and us in this coffin in the middle of a really busy, run-down corridor where people were laughing and joking and passing by, and they were just tapping her coffin, and like there wasn't an amazing woman inside that. They paid her no respect at all. She had no dignity over there. They wouldn't let anyone see her for hours and hours and hours. They were hiding stuff. They were visibly hiding things, and even if I had no facts at all, I could feel that they were lying. Luke got questioned by the prosecution over there because the hospital told him that it could be poisoning, and obviously Luke was the prime suspect. So I got out there and I was with him and his brother, and the prosecution came up, who were basically higher than the police. The prosecutor quizzed Luke in the back of a van. He sat in a van, we just stood outside the van whilst they were grilling him through translation, broken translation. Basically wanting to know if he killed his wife. I can't explain how traumatizing this whole thing has been for me, let alone for Luke and Beth, who would be watching this all happening to him, and their 2 children, Eloise and Tommy, who are 8 and 5, who were out there not able to see their mum. The last time they saw her was when she got put into the ambulance, who, by the way, took 2 hours to come. There are so many things that I feel like I can't even remember because it was so awful. But there was no communication from the hospital. They were WhatsApping, saying one thing whilst doing another. They said that they did an angiograph and that her heart was fine, and then suddenly she's been transferred to another hospital because her heart wasn't fine. It was septic hepatitis, toxic hepatitis, which never got told. The only reason we found that out is through WhatsApp, through translating WhatsApps between other people. And then it was septic shock, and then they ruled out septic shock, and then they ruled out toxic hepatitis, and then she was just gone. And now we don't get a cause of death because it has to go to an inquest, which will be end of the year, November. Beth doesn't get a UK death certificate because it was from another country. They literally said to Luke, sorry, your wife's died, you owe us €2,500, can you pay it? Like now, can you pay now? And then you can see her. Perfectly healthy. So we have set up a GoFundMe for Luke and the children. Luke really wants to take this further and get answers, and he fully deserves to. But also Luke is self-employed, he's a carpenter. Beth was the homemaker. She did the school runs, she looked after the kids, she did their dinner. Luke would leave early in the morning and come home in the evening. So I am asking as a community if we could pull together and help. Because, as I said, just from the sidelines, losing her for me was traumatic enough, but going over to Istanbul and seeing firsthand, having to carry her body and see her like that, and the lack of respect, and then having to go the next day to the forensic examiner's office and saying, do not take any organs, and then making sure the translator told them, do not take any organs. They wanted to bury her and cremate her within 24 hours. We had to fight to get her repatriated and pay ourselves. There's so much more I could say, but if you could donate or share or just give this some traction, I would really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to answer some questions. How did she die is the most common one. We don't know. Beth was ill before she got to Turkey. She started being sick on the plane. We thought maybe it was like a dodgy Chinese, because I had Chinese before. No one else was unwell, but that's just what Luke thought. And, you know, when I heard she was unwell, I thought, sounded like food poisoning. The medical reports from Istanbul rule out food poisoning. They said it is not food poisoning. That is a very specific thing that they've said in the medical report, and to us, it is not food poisoning. So we don't know how she died. She had an autopsy done in Istanbul, and then another one done with the forensic pathologist. So basically we don't get that report for about 6 months from Istanbul, because I had to send off tissue samples and everything else. Then we got her repatriated to the UK, which took I believe it took about 7 days, and then they did another autopsy over here. A few days ago we got that report. They were lovely. They were so kind over here. There was empathy and respect for Beth, but a cause of death cannot be found, and especially without her heart, which is what we were told was the issue. So now that has to go to an inquest, and you don't find that out until about November time. So we don't know how she died. We don't know how she became so sick. It literally feels like I'm making up this really horrific horror story. When I got to the hotel the night that Beth had died, okay, okay, right, another question. Did you not have insurance? Yes. So we were working with the insurance company. The insurance company wanted to move her to a private hospital. The public hospital in Istanbul were not cooperating. They were being slow. They were delaying medical reports. They weren't sending information over. They stopped her. So they transferred her to another hospital to have an angiograph done, like her heart thing done, because she was in intensive care at this moment in time. And then they transferred her back, saying that her heart was fine, didn't show anything, even though she needed to go to that hospital because there was something wrong with her heart. They transferred her back and still didn't transfer her to a private hospital. Then she died. They said that they did 45 minutes of CPR. Anyone who's ever had CPR or seen CPR knows how brutal it is. When I saw Beth, when I saw her, when she was in the morgue afterwards, she had her hair, she had them in 2 French plaits. And they were perfect. They were perfect. There is no way that they did CPR for 45 minutes. I know that. I was unfortunate enough to have it years and years ago. And I know the state and how harsh they have to push. The bed covers everything. It's just not... Her hair was perfect. When Luke was being questioned by the prosecution, when they were inside the van and we were outside the van, they said, "Do you have any complaints at the hospital?" I said, "Yeah." And Luke said, "Yeah." And his brother said, "Yeah." We're like, loads. The communication, things don't add up. The time of death, the cause of death, we have it. And then they changed. They went, "So you're going to sue us and there's going to be a trial?" And we were like, no, we haven't said that. We haven't said anything about suing. And honest to God, for the next 15-20 minutes, all they went on about was, "Are you going to sue us? Are you going to sue the hospital? We need to know right now. Sign this bit of paper. Are you going to sue the hospital? Because we need to know if there's going to be a trial." And I said, he's not signing anything. All he wants to do is go and see his wife, because she was in the morgue at that point. And they kept going, "We need to know if you're going to sue us." And then I said, why would we sue? Is there something we should be suing for? Do you know something that we don't? Because that's really suspicious. Luke has gone through something that no person should ever have to go through, and he has done it with dignity and strength and pride for Beth. And I swear to you, between her family, Luke and myself, we are not letting this go. Like, fuck. Am I letting this go? Am I going to let them get away with taking her heart, lying about what happened, and just thinking that, treating her as if she was no one with no dignity? So that's what the money is for. It's for a court case to take the Turkish government and the hospital and the coroners to court. And I swear to you, I promise, that we will get answers. Hi everyone, I just really quickly want to say a massive thank you for all the support, the shares, the everything, the donations for the GoFundMe. It went absolutely above and beyond what anyone could ever have asked for. I do need one more favour from you. If anyone has been through anything similar in Turkey, any organs missing, anyone that's died out there or had a loved one, family member that's died and come back without organs, anyone who's had surgery there and had an organ taken without consent, you understand where I'm going with this. Please DM me, because we need as much evidence as possible that this is not just a one-off. We know it's not just a one-off. I can't say anything more on the matter while this is now in legal proceedings, but honestly, thank you so much for all the support you've shown Luke, her family, her children, me. It's absolutely incredible, and also at the same time unimaginable. I never thought the rabbit hole would go this deep. So if you do have any similar experiences from a loved one and you're happy to talk about it, or someone else has, I understand it's a really sensitive topic, please drop me a DM. Very much needed right now. Thank you.